Hello and welcome to another edition of the Mascarandy Media Podcast. My name is Mike Appleton and it's good to have you on board once again. This time around I've got an interview for you. I spoke quite recently with Jack Overhill, who's the training officer at the Red Rose Caving and Pothole Club based up in Casterton near Barben. Jack's an interesting chap because he's young, and I'm a little bit older, so that was a good little conversation there. But we have a real wide-ranging conversation about kind of caving, adventure tourism, reputation of caving at the moment, and also he was involved in the cave rescue in Brecon Beacons quite recently as well. I've split this interview into two halves, so in the first half you'll get to hear all about that kind of caving and adventure tourism and that cave rescue. In the second half we go a little bit more into kind of what Jack's been up to, his passion for caving, his work with special needs, and also various little things about risk and conservation and things like that. It's a wide-ranging conversation and I hope you'll enjoy it. A couple of words of warning, possibly. Firstly, this was recorded in the reading room at the Red Rose Caving and Pothole Club farm up at Bullpot, which was anything like library-like. So firstly, you'll probably hear a small beeping sound all the way through the audio. Unfortunately, it looked like something was wrong with one of the computers that we got in there and we couldn't fix it. And secondly, I was starting with a cold as well, which you can probably hear in my voice now. Oh, and there's a very, very angry bee in there at some point as well, but I'm hoping it doesn't spoil the enjoyment of the show. So, on we go, and here's my chat with Jack. Jack, good to see you.
Hello.
We finally managed to tie this down. How long have we been looking to do this for?
The best part of a year.
Well, we finally managed it. We're in the reading room at the Red Rose Caving and Pothole Club, to give it its proper name. Yeah. Bullpot Farm. It's raining outside.
It is a classic Yorkshire weather at the UK's best caving club.
I've had the worst trip up the track as well, which I should know better for. Well, what brings you here? I mean, you're clearly not a northerner.
No, I am a southerner at heart. So when I was about 12, I was at school. I looked at this climbing one. I thought, I'll give that a go, and so I signed on for this after school club. Started at 4, finished at 5 or something, 6. So I thought, I'll give it a go, and quite liked it. So I did it for best part of a quarter of a term, and I was getting on quite well, getting up most of the routes that were there, and safe to say they've not changed since I've left. But one afternoon, my mum had to go. I remember she went to a doctor's appointment. Don't know why, but I thought, you know what? See if I can jump on the climbing and caving after school club, and so I did. And we went to a place called Split Rock Quarry, which is a ginormous limestone quarry. And it's called Split Rock because either side it's got about 40 or 50 metres of sheer. It's like a massive slot taken away in the countryside. And I went there and they were doing the big abseil from the top. And when I was there and I was young, I was only about 12. And it was massive. It felt like 90 metres. It was humongous. I got to the edge and was like, no chance am I ever going to do that. I just said no. And I backed off and I was like, I didn't like it. And then the following week, they said they were going to cave, and I thought, let's give this a go. It's a bit different. And I went and I just thought, wow, this world's amazing. It's underground. It's so calm. It's not about who can do what or whatever. It's about teamwork and getting everybody to do a little bit of everything, and everybody's there to support everyone, and I kind of like that. So I thought, this is cool. So that was how I got started. That's how I got hooked to it, and since then I've just been pushing it and trying to have as much fun as possible and trying to cause as much chaos as possible in my way.
I think most people get introduced to either it's got a climbing wall, abseiling, a caving when they're kids, and they kind of have that one kind of burst of it, and then kind of get lost to the sport, and then might come back into it at university. Do you kind of continue on kind of through your school years?
Yeah. So when I got to about secondary school, my caving kind of died off a little bit because I joined a sailing club. I was part of a sailing club when I was at school, and we used to sail a team of fireflies, and we used to go off to a couple of events each year during the summer term. And then at the end of that, I went to college. And when I reached the age of 18, I was able to be an adult. And, you're able to do whatever you want. And it's great. So I thought, right, I'll go and join a caving club. And I chose to join the Mendip Caving Group. And I wasn't even 18 when I started. I was 17, but I was going to be passing through 18 quite soon. And they took me to a few caves like GB and where else did we go? Went to quite a few caves. And then when I was past 18, I started going for my full membership. But it was quite difficult, I remember, to get my full membership. So I'm not sure if I ever officially got my full membership. I think I did about 6 months and decided that it's just too difficult and I wasn't going to bother. Whether or not they changed that now, I don't know. But I ended up going to the Cerberus Caving Club, which is kind of like East Mendip. And they have it's a very different club. Again, they've got a club hut, just like the MCG, but they do a lot of digging there instead of kind of like trips, club trips. So it was very different in terms of what they do. So I used to do quite a lot of digging with them during my uni kind of like holidays. And then during uni, I was up at Liverpool studying a BSc in outdoor education, and I was doing all sorts of kind of like SRT training for the club and things like that. And the one thing that you learn about kind of cavers is that they've always got a story to tell, and it's great. You come here, the Red Rose, and you sit down on a Friday night or Saturday night, and you hear the stories that are being told, and some of these stories are so farcical and kind of like, why? But they're great stories. We got some members like Dalek and Steve Gray and the Starkers and all sorts of people, and they can tell you stories for days and days and days, and it's just awesome to kind of see, and you'll see the new members come in. Like the younger generation, younger than myself. I'm only 26, but the younger generation, like the university cavers and kind of like the ones that are just coming in, they'll come in and tell their stories. Yeah. And everybody's got a different story to caving, and that's what I kind of like about caving. Everybody's got a different story, and it unfortunately I think it is a dying sport, caving, and I don't like the idea of that, because the amount of people that I take caving, both commercially and through Red Rose or whoever, I love caving. It's like the best thing ever. Andy Sparrow, who is a CIC based down in Mendip, many people will know him, who are caver in the Mendips or afar, and he said to me once, caving is kind of like the adventure tourism. It will boom at one point, but no idea when. It's like digging. You keep digging in a cave till you find this mystery chamber. And when it's the same thing with that in the commercial world, we'll keep dipping away and keep dipping until we eventually hit that breakthrough. And then the media will be all over it, and they'll be like, oh, caving is the new best thing to do in the outdoors. At the moment it's hiking and climbing. Yeah. So we are waiting for that kind of like boom. This is caving and this is commercial caving. Come and do it. It would be awesome to kind of like, it might spike a massive generation in caving. I really want to see that.
I think you might get a bit of kickback as well. I mean, you're talking about stories there, and one of the reasons I joined Red Rose was I used to walk past here with my dad and knew what was going on at the hut, and I kind of wanted to be a part of that and interview people who were there, speak to people, and I wanted to explore Lancaster Hall because of the way it was discovered. That was kind of my passion. What you're talking about there about kind of a boom in commercial caving possible and that it kind of straight in my head then I thought about, the boom of commercialism on Everest, and how you're old isn't the right word, but your traditional mountaineers have kind of kicked back against that. Do you think that, we're not saying it's going to happen, but do you think that the sport's ready for that? Knowing what you know now, and there is quite a lot of politics in clubs, not the Red Rose, but there is kind of lots of politics,
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of politics within caving. I think if there was going to be kind of like an economic boom in sort of like adventure tourism and caving, I think it would be a big wake-up call to the industry, because there's not actually that many. If you look at kind of like the mountain leaders and the rock climbing instructors, there's quite a large base of like people who are like willing to take you out for a walk or a climb, at a crag. But when it comes to caving, you could probably, I don't know, there might be only about 300 of them, and only 100 of those people have got a qualification to take you into a multi-complex kind of cave system. So there's only about 100 CICs that are kind of like on the books. So it's a very small world of who can take you in to see some of these amazing places. So yeah.
Do you think caving's got a bad rep, Jack?
Do you think caving's got a bad rep? I think any sports have got a bad rep. You kind of, if you look at kind of like climbing. There was a new film that came out, The Alpinist. I don't know if you've seen it.
Not yet, no.
It's a good watch, because it really does kind of show climbing in a very multi-complex kind of view. So it was kind of like climbing, soloing is great to kind of see. And what he was doing was kind of like beyond like comprehension to most people. I went and saw it with a friend, Joe Gittins, and Joe's been ice climbing for years and years and years, and I've followed up many of kind of ice climbing venues in the lakes, and he was kind of sitting next to me. His arsehole was shaking quite a bit, because like the stuff he was doing was like uncomprehensible to him, let alone me. I was just like, wow, some of these places are stunning, they're great, but like, we're both thinking we want to be attached to a rope, and then that comes down to like climbers' perspective of what is soloing, and it's like soloing's cool. I've done a bit, not massive amount, but I've done a bit of soloing. Nothing particularly hard or gnarly, but you do kind of look at it and you go, is that stupid? Is that going to give climbing a bad rep? And you kind of think, well, yeah, maybe. If it goes wrong, it might give a bad rep. Unfortunately, I don't want to give the plot away. You'll have to go and see The Alpinist for yourself to kind of see that rep. But yeah, it's quite an interesting view, because it sees it at very multiple different angles. Alex Honnold, one of probably the greatest soloist of all time. I'm sure you've seen the Free Solo. It's an amazing film.
Yep. The
angles are great, but it does make you feel a little bit sick, I found, because I was like, especially on that bouldering piece, even he was like, you probably don't want to watch it, because like you're going to be a little bit sick.
There's a bit where he has to do a bit of a karate kick type move, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's a hard move,
Yeah.
It's without having the conversion table in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it is way higher than E4, which is mental, which is what I would say most people would consider quite hard grade in climbing to lead, let alone solo at kind of like multiple thousand feet of climbing. It's uncomprehendable to most people, if any real people can comprehend that. And then things sometimes happen when people are pushing it, and I think that the public's perception is very much pushed upon media's views and what they feel. The person who's behind the desk writing the report, it's all the public's views will be based upon that journalist's view. So if they say, "Oh, that was crazy and that was stupid," the public is probably going to go, "Oh, yeah, it's crazy and stupid."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But is it crazy and stupid? Getting in your car and driving from where you live near Liverpool and coming up to work. It's probably, if you think about it, the risks are far more dangerous. You go on a motorway where you're travelling at 70 miles an hour, what are the risks that can happen there? So I guess it comes down to, with when you're pushing it in these areas, is how far are you willing to push the risks? Is it worth it? I went caving today, and I was going up this place I'd never been before, in Knots 2, which is quite a nice trip. And I got to a point where I was like, there's a bit of rope there, never seen it before, give it a good tug, didn't snap, so I thought, I'll give it a go. It was only attached to quite a large boulder, but I didn't know the history of the road, and I was quite happy to push it, but I wasn't with anybody, so I was totally reliant on my judgment and like my skill level, my knowledge of testing that road, which I just gave it a pretty good kind of like bang bang to see if it held, and it did hold, and I was like, let's see if this goes. You make these calls and you live by them, and if they go wrong, then the public will unfortunately have their view on it, and usually it's the journalists behind the screen writing those articles that influence the people's views and opinions.
Well, we've just seen that with the chap in Brecon Beacons, which we'll come on to in a minute, because I know that you volunteer for Cave Rescue. But obviously, he got quite deep into OFD, didn't he? And sustained it was described as a hand injury or whatever injury it was, and obviously couldn't make his way out. And next thing you know, the media have, it's the excitement of the rescue, and will he get out? Well, I mean, he was going to get out, and 300 rescuers headed down and things like that. And then afterwards, it's let's give cavers a kicking. It's like we've had your little kind of, excitement of getting the poor chap out, and then it's right, it's caving dangerous. Should they be doing this? And just seems the way society is at the moment. I just mentioned there that you volunteered for Cave Rescue, and you went down to Brecon. What was your kind of role in that rescue?
So it was a very long role for the amount of time that I spent in the cave, but I'm glad I went down because there was a lot of people there who'd been there for quite a long time, and I could see people coming out and they were pretty tired. So I do feel that the journey that I took to get down there was really worth it, because some people were totally bollocks when they came out, and you could see it. They were tired. They'd done maybe 2 or 3 shifts underground. So I got up at about it was 10 to 3 when I got out of bed in the morning on Monday, and I drove to Steve's house, and I drove him to Clapham, where we were planning on getting into Crow 3 and getting a lift down all the way down to Wales, but we decided that we'd just drive ourselves down, and we got to the South Wales Caving Hut about, I think it was about 9 o'clock, off the top of my head, which gave us about an hour just to kind of like chill out and let our brain kind of completely desensitise from the driving, because driving takes a massive toll on what you're doing, and it's quite tiring driving for a long period of time. So we had about an hour kind of like just chilling and just chatting and resting, and then we had a kind of like a briefing at about 11 o'clock with the duty controller above ground, or incident commander, and this went on for about, it was a good 20 minutes. He was telling us about the in-depth picture of what's happening underground and how it happened in the first place, because with a lot of these rescues, there's quite with these big rescues, there's quite a lot that you need to know about before you go down, and but also there's no point getting to a rescue and going, well, what's happened, so you kind of need to have a bit of a background, a brief into what's going on. So we had that, and then we got kitted up, and then we had a further brief before we went down, because every minute things were changing because they were trying to keep it as dynamic as possible to make sure people were doing the job that they needed to do. But that also depended on, how fast was that stretcher coming out, So was the stretcher coming out the speed that they predicted it was? Or was it coming out faster? Or was it coming out slower? If it's coming out faster, is it best to send us in to do a kit collection? Because they had so much kit in the cave. Their kit store was empty when I got there. It was just empty. I've never seen a kit store empty at a cave rescue incident. And it was like, wow, it's just an empty box. So there was a lot of kit inside the cave. I still think they're trying to get it out now. It's good 2 weeks on. So, they've been working hard down there. So anyway, we started heading up and we went underground. And we got just below what's known as the corkscrew. And he was doing all right. He was on time. We met him exactly where we should have. So, we started making progress with the 12 o'clock team that went in. And you do about, I think it was meant to be about 6 hours of kind of like graft to help him get out. But we ended up doing about 8 hours, and we got him out to the surface at the end. So I kind of like the finish shift, if you like, because there was no point pulling us out fresh. It's 6 hours. We could easily do another 2, So they just kept us in there, and we knew we weren't that far out, and he knew he wasn't that far out as well. To the point that, he said to me, "Can we just get out now?" I was chatting to him. We were talking about, what kind of caves he wanted to do next, and he was telling me where he lived, and I was talking about the caves where he lived, like near Pen Park Hole in Bristol, and it was, we were having quite a good chat about what was going on, and I was making some slight jokes to him just to like keep him happy, and I quite enjoyed chatting to him. He was a good lad, he was awesome, and it comes down to like cavers are generally really sound human beings, and when somebody hurts himself, of course you want to go and help them. It doesn't matter about the driving or how long you're going to spend down there. It's the fact that it's a very small community, and we want to just help each other. We want to push it, but we also want to help each other. And I don't think anybody in the caving community wouldn't have been there if they couldn't. If you get my drift.
Yeah, there's no judgment as well, Jack, is there? I've found that with cavers, and especially speaking to yourself and other people in cave rescue, you never make a judgment on. You might do in the hut afterwards, like, what's that silly getting gone and done that for? But there's no judgment. It's kind of, chaps or chapesses in need, and we need to get them out. And
yeah, I mean, you just kind of drop what you do and just go. Yeah. And that's basically what I did. Can't remember what I was going to do Monday. I think I might have just gone caving. I think I had a friend up, and he was staying in Lancaster, Sol, and we had probably ended up going caving. So either way, I was going to go caving anyway. So it didn't matter to me, and I was just happy to be caving, to be honest, and just being there. I like caving for myself. And doing stuff, but sometimes it's nice to cave as part of a bigger team, on a big team, and it's just a shame that sometimes on these bigger team jobs, unfortunately, something happens. Yeah. You're there for a reason. I wasn't part of the 3 counties system day, but I would have loved to be part of that. Being part of a big team, making sure everything runs smoothly, is pretty cool. Unfortunately, I was at work. I think I was running a caving day, actually. So I was underground again. But, it's, being part of a big team in a caving, and lots of people doing their roles, it's pretty cool to be a part of a big team and getting a job done. And especially when there's quite a lot of graft in it as well. On a 3 county system, I can't imagine how many diving bottles were going down to the various sumps to meet the divers and getting them through. It's going to be a lot of graft. There was a lot of volunteers. I'm well aware of that, and there was certainly a fair amount of media coverage, but nowhere near as the Brecon.
It's not as exciting, is it?
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. I was thinking about this after all the reports came through, and I was thinking, I wonder why the BBC and ITV and Sky didn't do as much publication of media about the Three Counties Traverse, because they did on the Brecon rescue. I think it comes down to, unfortunately, people want to hear about heroic stories, and they want to hear about a graft, and they want to see an outcome. Now, the outcome of the Three Counties system was divers got A and B, and it was impressive, really impressive. And it's blown quite a lot of the caving community worldwide that they've done it. But to say that 300 people did the longest stretcher carry in British cave rescue history, if maybe probably not the world, but it's certainly a massive long 53-hour rescue. It's got more of a kind of compelling story to it. We got this chap out, and it unfortunately it does sell a bit better. Even though that the Three County system was still a massive achievement, especially in Yorkshire. The diving is hardcore. There's no ways to put it about it.
Well, it's what's obtainable. Jack, you just summed it up perfectly there. That obviously you got the kind of life or death stuff in the rescue, and people lap that out. They love that kind of heroic stuff. But people can walk into OFD, can't they? You can have a it's a show cave, isn't it? OFD, from what I remember.
There is a show cave further down the hill. Yeah.
So people can walk in, they can kind of see it, but the thoughts of kind of people diving in caves, it's not obtainable to people. So you get a story out saying that the longest diver, things like that. It's like, oh yeah, that's impressive. It kind of it washes over people because it's not obtainable for most people. Yeah. Whereas when somebody climbs Everest, people will always think, well, I've climbed a hill, I could probably do that, and there's that kind of connection with it.
Yeah, and well. I think a lot of people probably could climb Everest.
Well, they couldn't. Could they? Well, let's be fair. But.
Yeah, that's true. Probably a lot of people have the willpower and the want to, and probably the fitness to climb Everest if they wanted to. But you ask people if they want to go caving. Oh no, don't want to go caving. I've got a roof above my head. I'm going to be claustrophobic. And the one thing I've always learned about taking people caving is usually it's a bunch of bullshit. People aren't claustrophobic. I get them in the cave. They're just screaming and shouting for more tight stuff. Get me in the tightest squeeze you can find in this cave because I want to push it. I'm like, okay, yeah. I'll go and take you to the lung squeezer in long change, It has a tight one, and they do it and they're like, that was cool, and they're just hooked, they're hooked and they'll come again. And I don't know what it is, but people really like pushing the squeezers. Once they know that they're not claustrophobic. Yeah,
once you've seen somebody else go through, you think, oh, I'm going to have a go at
that. And sometimes there's a lot of peer pressure, especially on like stag do's and things like that. It's there's a lot of peer pressure, and sometimes you've got to be that mediocre guy and be like, if you don't want to do it, don't feel like you need to push it, because in the back of your head you're thinking, if they get stuck in there, you've got to deal with it, and you're like, don't know if I really want that pressure, because there's quite a few squeezes around the place that you're kind of just like, do I really want to be kind of like pulling someone out of there for a kind of like a prolonged period of time, or talking them through it, which you never really mind talking them through it, but they're not going to come back and go, caving's awesome. They're going to go back in a way going, caving's terrible.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. No one wants to go away from something and think, oh, that was terrible, why should I do that again? So I think that, sometimes you kind of, as a leader, it's really hard to kind of like make that right decision. It just comes with, I guess, experience. Pardon me. and you just have to play it by ear a little and go with what your gut instinct's telling you, because sometimes you're right and sometimes you're wrong, but you just have to go with it, I think.
See, you've made it through. Well done. It's just a quick note to say, please give me a follow at mascarandymedia.com. And also, I've got a new book out as well. So Secret Dales was published a couple of weeks ago, and it is also available in my shop. The second half of my chat with Jack, we look at his work with people with special needs, his passion for caving, a little bit about his solo caving exploits, conservation, and also how you can get in touch with him. See you at the end. You must get quite a lot of... I mean, I've spoken to you a number of times about the things that you've done, freelance. You obviously do a lot of kind of caving and taking groups out, but you've done a lot with kind of people with special needs and things like that. You must get a lot of satisfaction from what you do. Yeah,
I mean, I used to work full time. When I moved up here, I started an apprenticeship with the Bendra Trust, and they're an amazing organisation, and they do a lot of work specifically with people with special educational needs, physical, mental and emotional, and they do kind of climbing and caving and kayaking, and it's awesome. It's getting people out, and when I'm working there, it's not about how hard can they push it or anything like that. It's about them just giving it a go, because a lot of the time people don't have the opportunity to try, and they come away and they might be in a wheelchair, or they might not have the best walking ability, so giving them a chance to go climbing is quite a big thing for them, because they could go to a climbing wall and they get turned away. And now, unfortunately, that might be the fact that the climbing wall isn't catered to it, or the climbing wall doesn't have the experienced staff to deal with it. And Bendra is kind of like very fortunate to be able to tailor itself specifically to that market, and they make it a fantastic centre. They've got amazing staff who work there full time, and they give out experiences to people who really wouldn't have that chance to really give it a go without them. And every time I've been there, at the top of the climb wall, all I see is smiles. It's great seeing smiles of people like doing their first climb or going caving, and they're like, "Oh, look at that! It's a stalactite." And they know they might have not seen a stalactite before, but they've heard the name before, and it's like putting the two together. It like blows their brain away. And and they're like, we're underground. Never thought they'd be underground. So it's amazing to see their kind of like eyes glow massively, and it's like the whole world's opened up to them. And they're like, wow, I really see the world now, and it's really nice to see, that through everything like some people have been through, that they can still kind of be amazed and see things that they might have never had the privilege of being able to see. It's really nice. Your face lit up when you were talking about that. It kind of, you can see that kind of passion to show people what the outdoors is like, access to the outdoors, and your passion of climbing and caving. You can tell that it's not just a job. No, it's never been a job. I just really, when I get emails from companies asking me to take them caving, I just reply, "Yep. Is the kit booked? And how many clients am I going with?" That's all I ask, because I'm just interested about taking people caving and giving them a good time. I might, when it's canyoning and climbing, I really enjoy taking people canyoning as well. But it's always the same. It's just about giving people a good time and giving them as much banter and, if you will, and just making sure they're happy and they have a good day and they feel safe. Because I think, a lot of times, certainly when I was younger, I knew when I was safe or not when I was standing at the top of an abseil. And, and I think, a lot of that comes from the instructor that you're with. Do they have that personality to kind of have a bit of a joke with you and make you smile and, tell you that you're safe and come on, you can push it. It's a good, it's safe to push it. So, I've always been keen just to give people a really good time in a really safe environment. And that's probably like my philosophy. It's just trying to give people a really good time in such a kind of like, I don't want to use the word mellow because I think that kind of destroys the environment, but just trying to make them feel I don't know. I want to just make them feel as safe as possible and make them smile as much as possible because everybody deserves to have a taste of adventure, and sometimes I think it can get a little bit missed in the professional sense. We give people adventure and we give them smiles, but do we give them a taste of adventure, or do we give them a little bit of a kind of like our view of adventure, like a professional view of adventure? There's massive talk that I have with one of my mates, Jamie and Kendall, when we work in the Esk in high water, where it's really pumping it, and we talk about having a throw line when we go in, and we've talked about this in length, and we've got to the point where if we get there and we're feeling that we need to get the throw line, are we in a position to lead and coach? Are we playing in white water? Because the water's quite strong, and in the S there isn't really much room for error. You jump in, you generally swim downstream, and if you can't get your feet up, and you get washed away. So then there's a need for kind of like a throw line person, but you just kind of like wonder if you're throwing a throw line to pull somebody in, does that mean that the water current is maybe too fast for your clients? And I have in-depth conversations with my mate about this, and we came to the conclusion that if we need a throw line in the S, maybe we're just slightly out of remit.
Yeah, we shouldn't be there.
Or we shouldn't be there, So it's quite an interesting kind of. We always have these chats. I have lots of chats with people. I do enjoy it.
I don't remember much banter when you abseiled next to me and my chest harness came apart at Put the Witches, to be fair.
Which pitch was that?
Quite interesting. I think it was about the second or third, and my chest harness was basically over my head, and you came down and you just went, "How have you done that?" That was quite amusing.
That was quite a long time ago, wasn't it?
It was quite a long time. It feels a long time ago.
Yeah.
Especially
it's a worrying amount of time ago.
Yeah, it has been a while.
Mm.
It has been a while. Where do you see yourself going, Jack, with kind of... And I know you're freelancing now, and you're pretty much based up here now. You're in the CRO.
Yeah.
Red Rose, you're never allowed to leave once you're here. So do you see yourself kind of... This is your base now, and you're going to have a bit of a burgeoning adventure empire, or are you going to go off and do something like, walk here to Everest, or...
You know what they say about the farm, you got to keep the animals inside. Is what somebody told me. I can't remember where. I think it was on the Welsh Rescue. Got to keep the animals inside the club. And I thought that was a great quote. Where do I see myself going? Well, I'm still chasing up the infamous CIC qualification, the Cave Instructor Certificate, which is kind of seen as the highest qualification in caving, and I'm really keen to kind of finish that off quite soon, if I can, and from there, well, who knows? I'm just gonna cave more. I just really enjoy caving. Yeah. The idea of just going caving is just awesome. When I'm caving, I don't care about many things. I go caving, and sometimes it's by myself and sometimes it's with people, but as soon as I get underground, nothing really matters. Not kind of like the rent that you do with your house, or the electricity bill, or whatever like kind of burdens on your mind, everything seems to go when you're underground, and that's what I really like. Nothing matters. You're just caving, and you're down there for however long you want to be. You can come up within 5 minutes, or you can come up in 50 hours, 100 hours, whatever, and that's what I like, is that you can just go for however long you want, and nothing really matters. And you can go down to Lancaster Hole and just sit at full pot if you wanted to for 2 hours, and just kind of like take in kind of like the waterfall, the big chamber, and just kind of desensitize yourself and de-stress from life, and then you can come back up and just kind of go, oh, that's amazing.
There must be something keeping you up at night, though. Everybody's got something that keeps them up at night.
There's always things keeping me up at night. What keeps me up at night? The fact that I just want to go caving. Usually it's politics and bullshit, but I try and let that slide, to be honest. But to be honest with you, I just think about caving. If you look at my YouTube history, it's generally just caving. I don't do much else, I sit at home and I look at caving videos, and I just think about going caving, and that generally spurs a kind of like a solo trip or something. I watch a bit of TV and I think, oh, I'm caving, what should I do tomorrow? And I'll just think about a plan of what I'm going to do tomorrow whilst I'm watching a bit of TV. So really, it's like eat, sleep, cave, repeat. You can get. I'm sure that's on a T-shirt. I haven't got it, but eat, sleep, cave, repeat. That's generally my life.
So, what politics is keeping you up then?
Oh, just to be honest with you, there's not a lot of politics at the moment, but sometimes there is a lot of politics. Trying to do your CIC has quite a bit of politics.
Oh, that sort of politics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trying to complete your CIC, there's a fair amount of politics that you need to kind of get through, and it's a bit of a pain, but it's just kind of like a burden that you need to do. And sometimes you think about crazy new ideas about what you can do in caving and how to make your life simpler at work and all sorts of things. But yeah, what keeps me up at night? That's a good one.
Gets you thinking.
Yeah.
I was looking on the UK caving forum before, and I noticed that Giant's Hole in Derbyshire had been vandalised quite recently, and there was talk, some cavers were on there talking about kind of, well, let's just get it gated like it used to be. When I say vandalised, I mean kind of graffitied and things like that. Yeah. Does that kind of worry you at all with kind of big groups? I mean, obviously not your groups because you're with them and, responsible caving and things like that. Does that kind of worry you that these special places will get trashed? Or is this something that kids have always have done,
Well, so kind of like this year, I think I've seen I've been in 2 caves that have been vandalised. Longchance was vandalised, and all the graffiti was taken away. And I put a post up in the kind of, there's a very small group of kind of like the Yorkshire Cave Leaders page. There must be only about 40 of us in there, and I said, please hope that this is none of us guys, because this is going to go down. If it goes down on us, it's going to be really bad. And I got loads of responses saying, nah, definitely wasn't us. So I was like, whew, that's good. Then I thought, well, it just wouldn't have been the kind of the non-commercial scene, because I was like, these guys are just not interested in going to Allen Potts. And then I was thinking, is it a really big kind of like commercial enterprise who doesn't do a lot of caving that might have come in and done it? And then the last thing I thought about was, maybe it's just a bunch of scallies, vandals that came in. And I think they did it in Yordas as well recently.
Yeah, they did, yeah. So you can understand it in Yordas, but obviously you can't, but it's like 2 minutes from the road, but the Churns is still, it's a bit of a wander in from the track, isn't it? I mean, you've got to be kind of pretty much intent on that's what you're going to go and do.
Yeah, I don't, whatever I guess motivates them to go and graffiti a cave is beyond our comprehension, because we're all about protecting and kind of keeping things as kind of like pristine and clean as possible. And I'm sure with your work at the Millennium Trust that you do a lot of conservation work.
Yeah, we've done a lot of cave clearance over the last few years.
Yeah,
kind of removing graffiti and bits of farm machinery and stuff like that, and stabilising entrances. Yeah, we're the same, interested in conserving. Yeah,
I remember doing. I did a conservation day with the CNCC. And as you go out of Ingleton, there's a quarry on your left-hand side, a massive quarry. And just at the right, there's you go across the field, and there's a cave in there. It used to be an old show cave.
Yeah, Skerwith.
Say again?
Skerwith.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, I always forget the name. But I remember doing a day in there with the CNCC, clearing out all of the old wood and the timber from the old show cave. And the amount of stuff we got out there was like, where did this all come from? Because most people look there and they don't even realise there's a cave there. And I don't know how long it is, but what I explored after we all cleared it out must have been at least 200 metres of cave. And then you look at caves like White Scar and Ingleborough Show Cave, and you go, wow. Their idea of a show cave is a very different idea of what our show caves are now, because it really was just like a couple of planks of wood kind of like on the floor, and people used to walk along the planks of wood to get through the show cave. It was a very different ideology of what we consider a show cave now.
There was that sense of adventure, Jack. It kind of goes back to what this conversation's about, doesn't it? That people are prepared to grab a candle and walk along a couple of wooden boards and see what's doing. There was one at not far up from Catnot Cave in Thornsgale. I think it's called Holmes. Could be Holmes Hill Cave, which is another one which the water comes up to your neck. That was a show cave, and you kind of think, it is different from your Ingleborough caves. And
well, Ingleborough Cave, in that first section as you go through, that used to be completely sunk.
It was underwater, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then it was only when they built, they diverted the waters when. And you can clearly see it as you walk through that you've got that layer. It's only about, 30 centimetres high, where people used to walk through with a little candle in front of their head.
Bonkers.
Yeah. I can't think about going caving, with a candle. It just seems, crazy when we got all this technology, LED lights, stuff that people are coming out with, like Rude Nora and Scurrion and Petzl. And Phoenix, it's all LED, and they're pushing it. They're really pushing it. Like most lights now are easily over 1,000 lumens. You'd be kind of like not a little bit crazy to get less than 1,000 lumens, but it's just the technology's increased so much.
It's still pretty pure sport, though, isn't it? You think about, at the end of the day, wellies, suit, hat, off you go.
Yeah.
And you think about some of the other sports, and what does the average person carry if they climb up Ingleborough these days?
Yeah.
Probably the best pair of boots they can get, and waterproofs and rucksack and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, caving is, pretty pure, like you say. You can't beat a pair of Dunlop wellies. And, it sounds crazy to say that, but I've only ever caved in Dunlop wellies, unless I was in America. And America's got slightly different caves. A lot of their caves are a lot drier than ours. They're quite dusty. And I tried caving in wellies over there, and my ankles and my soles of my throat just ached for days. So I thought, right, once I was out there, I got a pair of shoes, because everybody was telling me that it hurts in wellies. So I got a pair of shoes, and I was like, wow, it really does make a big difference. But then I came back here, and I went back to wellies, and I think for the British climate, wellies are just perfect. And again, with the oversuit, the oversuit are great because our caves are pretty rough in comparison to a lot of caves around the world. And we wear fleecy because it's freezing down there a lot of the time. The other week, I think it was last week we went down Swinstow, and the weather was kind of it was stopped raining, and it was heavy rain the day before. And we got to the lane in Kingsdale, and I looked down at the beck, and it was still a little bit flowing. I thought, it's there, so it probably won't be in the cave. We got to the edge of the cave, and I looked down and went, yeah, it'll be sound. And we went down the first pitch and went, it was a little bit more splashy than what I remember it last time I came down. And then we got to split pitch, and it was like a water cannon. It was like, whoa. So my mate Sol went down first, and another one of my mates, Christian, I looked over and went, right now he's being water cannoned in the face. And all my mate could see was in the face. And you do wonder, kind of like, would a lot of people want to do that? There's a certain type of person that's willing to have kind of like, canyoning's slightly different because you haven't got a roof on your head. And there's not much difference between caving and canyoning. It's the fact that you've got a roof on top of your head. But it's the fact that you've got a roof on top of your head that everybody goes, oh no. So, yeah, it's quite interesting sometimes. It has a lot more kind of like committing feel to it just because it's got a roof on its head.
That's especially when you've got a duck underwater and things like that. I think once you've done that the first time, and once you get that kind of water overhead moment, you're okay, aren't you? Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think once you've done that for the first time, whether you've done it really young and it doesn't bother you again, but...
Yeah, I remember when my first trip down to Sump 1 in Swildens, I can't remember how old I was. I think I was must have been like 40. I was still quite young. And I remember getting there, and I gave it a go 3 times. Just couldn't do it. It's literally no longer than 1 metre. It's pretty small, but I could not get my head around, like, going through it. I was like, I've come a long way. If anything would happen, like, it's only that far, it's only a minute, but I physically couldn't get my head. My body was like, go for it. And then my head was like, no, don't you dare go for it. So I came back, like, I got redemption. The school let me come back on another trip. And we went all the way down. And I did it first time. No worries, no kind of complaining. And I was like, yeah, I got through. And then sometimes it is a bit like that with caving. Sometimes you go to a place and it's just, I'm not fucking going in that. It's just fucking revolting. And why would I do that? And then you come back another time, you go, it's not too bad actually. And then you're stupid enough to keep redoing it. And then you're kind of like, your perception, your comfort zone increases. There is a very long progress. To the point where you're happy just to kind of go and do things by yourself, if that's what you want to do. Now, solo caving is vastly controversial, but then everybody likes a bit of controversiality, I guess, don't they? I'm kind of happy with going solo caving because I feel I've got the skill and the knowledge to go and do it, and I feel quite lucky to be able to have people who've taught me how to cave in such a way that I know how to make sensible risks, take sensible risks, and make the certain judgments that I do when I'm down there by myself. That, basically, if I got it wrong, would result in me probably dying in hypothermia, So I feel quite lucky to cave with such a vast amount of people that I get quite a lot of skill, I think is the right word, skill and continuity between people in multiple aspects, which is really nice. I feel quite privileged to cave with such a humongous array of people on kind of like a yearly basis. It's great to be with so many people underground. It's just great chatting to people and just having shenanigans. The best trip I've ever done has to be, does it have to be, well, I guess caving has to be an underground trip, doesn't it? Caving takes me in lots of different ways, and sometimes I do trips above ground as well, that are caving based but just above ground. But as we're just talking underground for this sake, I honestly think it's Lost Johns. Lost Johns is such a nice cave. It's got 200 metres of kind of like rope work. There's not many caves in the Dales that has, well, probably is kind of like quite a few caves that have about 200 meters of rope work in them, but of the complexity and like the length of what there is there, it's really good in there. It's quality caving, and it's all, it's all on P bolts. You can just go there and get it done, and it's great. And there's 3 routes you can choose. There's Monastery, there's Dome, and there's Centipede. And you can do it in a day, or you can do it in half a day, depending on what you choose and where you want to go when you get to the bottom. But I really like Lost Johns because you get lots of options and you can just pretty much choose when you get there.
On the flip side is the one that you would never do again.
Never do again.
Yeah.
So when I was a kind of starting out caving in the Red Rose, I got invited, and it was Provenance to Down. And they said it was I think it was a Black Book Trip. I'm sure they said it was a Black Book Trip. They said to me, right, the first half of the cave is really great. Second half of the cave, it's going to be fucking hard. And I was like...
they sold it to you then, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, they sold it to me. Yeah, but I didn't realise quite how hard it was going to be. Because, I was prepared for a kind of like grade 4 nice cave. And I went down. The first half of the cave was lovely. And then you get to kind of like this passageway. And it's just straight. And it is straight for literally half a mile, 600 metres, bam. And there's 3 levels. There's like the narrows, and you basically go down the streamway. And it's really narrow, hence the name. And, if it floods, you die, pretty much. Or there's the I'm sure it's a 60-foot traverse. And then there's the 90-foot traverse. And there's no ropes up there. You're just doing it free climb. And I did the 60, but when I was going across it, I nearly died twice. So it was all within. I don't know what it was. Maybe I kind of like just losing the will to live in there or something, and I was just taking my eye off the ball. But basically, you come to this section, you have to slide down, kind of like it must be about 5-10 meters vertically with no rope. And there's nothing for your feet, really. You're just basically holding yourself in with the pressure of your body, and then you loosen it and you slide down. And I slid down till the kind of like the passageway slopes back in again, and then there's just a sheer drop below you that goes on for another 30 metres to hit the floor. And my feet were kind of like touching the side of the walls on both sides, but none of them were gripping. My wellies were just like sliding around, and I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna fucking go for it here. And this guy comes around from above, slides down, races out, and he's like, I've got you. And literally as he said I got you, I kind of slid down just like a millimetre, and my foot gripped. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, But him to slide down, all I had to do was just go down a millimetre, and it was all good. And I started moving kind of like along the passage to the right, and my foot gets caught in this kind of like little V slot, and I couldn't pull it out. So I thought, right, I'll just keep going. I don't know why I kept on going, but at one point I think my head was like kind of like my foot was higher than my head, and I'm not attached to anything. I'm just trying to get my foot out, and I'm just yanking the damn thing. And eventually it does pull out, and I managed to still kind of like brace myself in the wall, and then I slide back down to the floor where kind of everybody else is, and I was like, I'm never doing that fucking again. We need to P-bot this. It's fucking crazy. Now I'm sure I'm going to get lots of flack in your comments from Cavis saying, oh, it doesn't need bolting, but it's it's quite serious. And then people were telling me stories about the 90-foot traverse. There's a place up there called Greg's Horror. And I really can't be bothered to do that. Basically, you have to kind of like traverse with your tiptoes on one wall and your shoulders on the other. And there's no rope or anything. You're just kind of like going across it. Yeah. And that kind of just shivers up my spine. I was like, I really don't fucking want to do that. That's just diabolical. Why would you want to do that, That is like contemplating death, really. You must be having serious thoughts about caving if you want to do that.
Well, you just basically explained that caving's really dangerous and you almost died, so why do you do it?
Why do I do it? Because it's about that sense of adventure, what's around the corner. You never really know. When I was out caving in America, I went caving with a guy called Derek Bristol, and he's got his own YouTube channel. He's got hundreds of videos, and I think he's an amazing kind of YouTuber, and he explains his videos really well. And I went caving with them in South Dakota, and we went into Wind Cave, which is a really lovely national park above ground, but equally it's got some amazing formations below ground. It doesn't have kind of like a lot of stalactites and stalagmites, but it's got this thing called boxworks, I think they call it, and it's basically just crotch hatchings of calcite. It's very weird, and I'm sure it's calcite, and yeah, it's really crazy, kind of. But you never really know what's around the corner. And we were surveying passages that had never been surveyed before. And we went to this one place on the second day, and we found this chamber. And it was only roughly about a metre high off the ground, off the cave of the floor. And it was about, 100 square metres wide. And then in the middle there's a chute that went up to another level of passageways. And I found a tag up there, and I remembered the tag, and we could never find out where that tag was in on the survey. We pulled it up on Derek's computer, and we couldn't find what that tag was. So I don't know if Derek's been back and found out what that tag really was. Maybe I just had a dyslexic moment and read it completely wrong, which is probably highly possible with my brain. But we named this chamber the John Moores Room, but it had a secondary name of the International Pancake Room. And to answer your question, is you never know what lies around the corner. We found this chamber, and we didn't know it was there. And that's what I really love about caving, is that you can go into East Gill and there's a survey. You kind of know what's around the corner, but you never really do till you get there and you see it for yourself. And that's what I really love about caving, is that you can just go there and you can see it. And you don't always have to be super hardcore to get there. Some places you do, but some places you can just go and explore and have a good time, and then you get a little story to tell. And it's really cool to kind of be able to have that privilege to go somewhere that not many people have been able to go to, and be somewhere pretty remote as well. Is what I really like is when you go kind of like climbing and mountaineering and you do all these big peaks. Usually, well, not always. A lot of stuff in Canada that's being pushed now is a lot of it's unclimbed, but probably somebody's been to the top of that mountain before you. But in caving, there's probably never really that many people have been down there before. You go to a crag in the Lake District, thousands of people, maybe millions of people have climbed on that one crag. You go into Eastgill, and you're probably looking at 1,000, 2,000 people have probably ever been in there. Because it is, it's quite hard to get in, unless you don't have the proper skills to get in there. There's not that many. Well, maybe 2,000 is quite rare. Maybe 10,000 people have ever been in Eastgill, maximum, I would have thought, over the kind of years and years that it's been around. But it comes down to what's accessible to people and like the kit that they have to offer, I think is,
Thank you, Jack. It's been I've enjoyed it. I've spoken to you many times, but I actually sat down and spent an hour with you and actually discover what makes you tick. If people want to follow you or find out what you're up to, what's the best way of getting in contact with you?
Instagram is kind of like the easiest. You can just jack.overhill and you can follow me there. I've got loads of stuff going on. Most weeks I've got something posted up, and now it's kind of like the quiet season. There's lots of caving stuff going on. I got quite a lot of caving pickies from today, from my little trip, so you'll probably see some helictites and some other cool formations that I kind of took whilst I was down there.
Awesome, thank you.
No worries.
Well, thanks for listening to the latest edition of the Mascarandy Media Podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. A little bit different from the usual ones, which you just get to listen to me waffle on for about 20 minutes about what's going on in the world. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, do everything that the influencers say that you should do. And I hope to bring you another podcast soon. Thanks for listening.